Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Liberal government is under fire across parts of the country after the Prime Minister announced last week that he's pausing the carbon tax for residents in Atlantic Canada.
Leading the charge, of course, is Poilievre. The Conservative leader sat down to speak with us earlier today over Zoom, where he repeated his call for the government to scrap the carbon tax entirely. He also called out local Liberal MPs Patty Hajdu and Marcus Poilievre for failing to secure an exemption here.
Okay, Mr. Poilievre, thank you so much for the time today. Let's start with the main reason that you're here. On Thursday, we know that Justin Trudeau announced that he's going to pause the carbon tax on home heating oil for 3 years in Atlantic Canada and double the rebate for rural residents across the country. You want the Liberals to go a lot farther than that and scrap the carbon tax entirely. Why?
It's only fair. I mean, after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, life costs more, work doesn't pay, housing costs have doubled. And part of the reason is his carbon tax, which drives up food, gas, and groceries. Now he wants to quadruple that tax to 61 cents a liter. Now, what I've said is we'll decide the future of the carbon tax in the next election. But in the meantime, he's offered a pause on home heating fuels for Atlantic Canadians. What about people in Thunder Bay? Thunder Bay is cold, as you know. And the Liberal MPs have failed to give Thunder Bay residents an exemption or a pause on their natural gas and propane heat. So why is it that Patty Hajdu and Marcus Poilievre have not gotten the same carve out for Thunder Bay that Justin Trudeau has offered other Canadians in the East?
You've long said that you're against the carbon tax. Now, we have seen the impact, though, of climate change here in northwestern Ontario. We know that remote First Nations have been forced to evacuate several times in recent years due to wildfires and flooding. So if a carbon tax isn't part of the solution to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, then how do we achieve that 40% reduction that Canada has committed to by 2030?
We need to green light green projects here in Canada so that we can produce more emissions-free nuclear, hydroelectric, tidal wave power that can feed our grid with green, carbon-free energy, and that can help power our economy. That'll be a way of making carbon-free energies more affordable rather than making traditional energy more expensive. Justin Trudeau has effectively admitted that his carbon tax is not an environmental plan by pausing that tax on the home heating fuels in Atlantic Canada. But Liberal MPs in Thunder Bay have not got the same carve out for the residents there. So we have a question for Patty Hajdu. Is this a case on the carbon tax of do as I say, not as I do?
I also want to talk about the opioid crisis. Thunder Bay has some of the highest opioid death statistics in the country, worse than the Ontario average, worse even than in BC. You've derided the Liberals' approach to fighting the crisis, and you've also referred to safe supply programs and safe injection sites as the tax-funded drug supply. How would you more effectively fight the opioid crisis?
That's a good question. After 8 years of Trudeau, the number of overdose deaths is up 200%. And now we know that well, first of all, let's just acknowledge, how did this start? The corrupt pharmaceutical companies pushed OxyContin that got thousands of people addicted. Now that's a pharmaceutical grade drug. So what is Trudeau now saying his solution is? To give out more pharmaceutical grade opioids, the same ones that started the crisis in the first place. He's literally giving them out with tax dollars, and he's decriminalized the possession of crack, heroin, and other hard drugs. This is not working. Look at your streets. Look at these tent cities. We never had these tent cities before Justin Trudeau. My common sense plan takes the money away from tax-funded opioids and gives it to treatment and recovery. Beautiful treatment centers where people can go get detox, counseling, job preparation, group therapy, sweat lodges for First Nations, exercise, yoga, and then let's build apartments right on to the side of those centers so that graduates can live for 60 or 100 days as they transition back. They can return to the treatment center to get more help, to get in a workout, or maybe to mentor the incoming addicts. That's how we bring home our loved ones drug-free. I'm also going to sue the big pharma companies who caused this crisis. The Americans have collected $54 billion in settlements from those companies. We've lost 30,000 people here. We should get billions in settlements, and I'll put that recovered money into more treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, thank you so much for your time.
It's common sense. Let's bring it home.
And that was just a portion of our interview with Pierre Poilievre. You can catch the whole conversation on tomorrow's edition of TBT News Word for Word at 5:30 p.m. on Global Thunder Bay. Turning to municipal politics now, first-term City Councillor Rajni Agarwal is facing a substantial penalty recommended by the city's Integrity Commissioner. It's for a reported violation that hasn't yet been disclosed, but the potential punishment will be discussed at Council next Monday night. It's recommended that Agarwal's council pay be suspended for 30 days. More details are expected tomorrow when the Integrity Commissioner's full report should be revealed. Council isn't required to follow the recommendation and will ultimately vote Monday whether or not to accept it. Agarwal wasn't available for an interview today, but she insists the Integrity Commissioner's report doesn't tell the full story.
City Council has pushed back its decision on a proximity principle for high-level nuclear waste in the region.
It came after a demonstration in front of City Hall organized by those who oppose the transportation of nuclear waste through this region. Council now wants to consult with those groups further before making a decision. Vasilios Bellos explains.
A protest before Monday's City Council meeting, where a group of concerned citizens voiced their opposition to transporting nuclear waste through the region.
Nuclear waste has got to go.
Around 50 people were involved in the demonstration ahead of a council discussion on a potential proximity principle for high-level nuclear waste. The principle would dictate keeping nuclear waste as close to its point of generation as possible.
How dangerous this could be, the risk magnified times the frequency.
Peter Lang with Nuclear Free Thunder Bay talked about what he sees as considerable risks that would come with transporting waste through the region.
The freight train lost its cargo.
The seriousness of something as radioactive as that. So you ask anybody, MTO, OPP, there will be truck accidents. There's no doubt about it.
During the meeting, though, a surprise referral from Councillor Andrew Folds, who wanted more consultation with the groups represented at the protest before making a decision.
Set up that meeting, and then it'll come back to us and we can have that debate. I don't think we should have the debate 2 nights. I think we can maybe do this and then we'll come back and have that more broad discussion later.
The decision comes as the Nuclear Waste Management Organization has shortlisted a site near Ignace and Wabigoon Lake Ojibwe Nation for nuclear waste disposal, with a decision expected next year.
We've been shipping nuclear material around the world for more than 50 years, more than 5 million kilometers, and there's never been an accident that's caused a release of radiation.
The NWMO's Vince Ponca attended the meeting and stressed safety as his organization's top priority. Ponca vows that the project will move forward not only with consent from Ignace and Wabigoon Lake, but the region as a whole.
I'd imagine we'd have a hard time moving forward if Dryden wasn't excited about this project and if Thunder Bay wasn't excited about this project, right? It's not just the siting communities. It's really, even in terms of labor demand, we're going to need to draw from the entire region.
The NWMO is expected to make a decision on their nuclear waste burial site by late 2024. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
Thunder Bay has a new deputy fire chief. Martin Heine has taken on the position. He's been with Thunder Bay Fire Rescue for more than 20 years. He spoke today about his rise up the ranks. Heine says it's been a long road to this point, but believes he's ready to take on the new responsibility. Heine has held various roles with the fire service since 2000, including as a firefighter, training officer, and training division chief. He's most recently served as acting deputy fire chief and has now been chosen for the full-time job, filling the vacancy left by the retirement of Eric Nordland. Heine joins Dave Paxton as the department's 2 deputy fire chiefs working under Greg Hankio. Hankio says Heine has shown an unwavering commitment to the team and the community.
It's necessary that we have 2 deputy fire chiefs in Thunder Bay Fire Rescue, very consistent with other jurisdictions across the province. In order for us to effectively and efficiently serve the community, that's what's required.
We are going to have to work together to keep consistency as to what's been delivered along the way here, and hoping to add what I can to move the department forward.
Facing reporters today for the first time in more than a month, Premier Doug Ford reiterated that his office had nothing to do with the plan to remove protected land from the Greenbelt.
Those comments came as Ford was pressed over his government's use of ministerial zoning orders and allegedly favoring certain developers. Rahim Ladani reports.
A day after thousands of documents were uncovered surrounding what Ontario's premier knew about removing land from the Greenbelt, alleging his friends benefited from urban boundary expansions, Doug Ford is firing back.
I had nothing to do with the changes in the Greenbelt, number one. Number two, the Auditor General cleared my office, and the Integrity Commissioner cleared me and my office.
The RCMP is still investigating the matter, and inside the legislature, the NDP accused the Ford government of being dishonest.
That's his alibi? We have 7,000 pages of evidence, 7,000 pages of evidence, 7,000 more reasons that Ontarians have to question this government's integrity.
Freedom of Information documents released by Environmental Defence allege the Ford government issued 18 minister zoning orders, known as MZOs, to fast-track development, all to people who were guests at a wedding for the Premier's daughter last summer. They also claim to show political staff directed changes that would benefit certain developers.
He's denied that he was having meetings with developers like Sergio Mancha about removing his land from the Greenbelt. But we have evidence now in these emails and documents that the Premier, in fact, did meet with Mr. Mancha back in 2021.
Sergio Mancha co-founded the Hamilton-based company Urban Solutions. In a statement, the company says, the mayor and other local representatives attended a fundraiser for the PC party in September of 2021 at Mr. Mancha's home. During the event, Mr. Mancha spoke briefly about this property with the Premier, but it was nothing new. The Ford government has since reversed expansion plans in 12 municipalities, including Hamilton.
I have acknowledged right from the beginning there was too much input from political staff. We have a provincial policy statement, and that's what we should be guided by.
However, the government denies any intentional wrongdoing.
That was CTV's Rahim Ladani. Well, flu shots and the latest COVID vaccines are now available to anyone in Ontario. The Thunder Bay Public Health Unit clinic is set up at the CLE Coliseum, providing vaccines either by appointment or walk-in. Both the Pfizer and Moderna XBB vaccines are now available. The CLE clinic is open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for anyone over 6 months old. Laura Dennis, the manager of the health unit's vaccine and preventable disease program, says while walk-ins are available, they continue to prioritize those who book online ahead of time.
We would recommend people book an appointment to minimize their wait times at our clinics, though. We are seeing a good number of people coming through, which is really great. And so we will be prioritizing appointments, and it would encourage people to book an appointment or to seek out an appointment at a pharmacy.
The clinic is expected to run until January, depending on the demand.
Winneman Lake First Nation is the latest community to be connected to the provincial power grid through the Watay Power Project.
The community is the 7th remote First Nation electrified by Watay. Lee Noonan was in the community yesterday for the celebration.
The new transformer station in Winneman Lake First Nation went live on September 21st. The community celebrated the end of their reliance on diesel with a blessing of the station and a community feast. According to Winneman Lake Chief Sam Mamakwa, they had needed upwards of 1.2 million liters of fuel a year to keep the old diesel generator running. A huge expense for the First Nation, particularly with the winter road season growing shorter.
We have to make plans. We have to make plans that we have enough financial resources to bring in fuel to keep the generating system going. Now we don't have that concern. There's no concern at all.
Despite the strain on community resources, Mamakwa emphasized the importance of community control of the utility. He's happy the First Nation has a stake in Wataynikaneyap Power, and he's looking forward to a day when the company will be 100% First Nations owned.
Our elders have always encouraged us to start looking at building a solid foundation for our future generation. And one of those things is through ownership of any major infrastructure or development that may happen in our homeland. And because we need to establish something for our children and grandchildren.
Winneman is one of 24 First Nations that together own 51% of Watanakaneyap. Fortis, a BC utility company, holds the other 49% interest. Kennequinash says their goal is for Wate to be completely First Nation owned in 25 years. For now, the hydro connection means Winneman has the capacity to power new developments and can avoid the outages that Mamakwa says were common with diesel power.
It could be because the generating system went into mechanical issues, or it could be because the fuel has to be flown in.
Mamakwa says the first hydro bills have already arrived here in Winneman, and they're not as high as they used to be, something the community is pretty grateful for. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Well, Thunder Bay has voted for the spookiest house of the Halloween season. The owners have won a cash prize as part of the Monster Map contest from Rock 94 and 91.5 CKPR. More than 20 houses entered the online contest to choose Thunder Bay's best Halloween decorations, but only one entry could win, and it was that of the Sandberg family. They take home the $500 prize after getting the most votes. The house is decked out with everything from lifelike spiders, a giant black cat, pumpkins that light up the night sky, and even a scary video complete with some Halloween music. Rock 94 and CKPR presented the check last night. The Sandberg family says the money is going to their son, Anders, who did most of the work. He says he was surprised but very excited to get so many votes.
I did not think I was going to win. To be honest, there were some better houses out there, in my opinion, but the money's going to go to another big decoration for next year, of course.
There's not that many events that lead up to Halloween. So people that we heard from were getting their entire families together. They were getting in the car, and it was becoming kind of a Halloween tradition, going from house to house just to see who's the best decorated. They have little arguments amongst the family on who they're going to vote for and stuff like that. So, hey, if we're bringing people together at this time of the year, that's a good thing.
Well, the Sandbergs are now going to set their sights on decorating for Christmas, but you can still check out their winning Halloween house at 262 Trinity Crescent, along with all other spooky homes on the Monster Map.
Local elementary students showed their Halloween spirit today with costume parades and dance parties.
Mitchell Ringo stopped by École Grand Morgan this afternoon, where there were many excited students to dress up at school and also to head out trick-or-treating tonight.
Halloween festivities were in full swing today at École Grand Morgan, with students getting the chance to miss some class for a spooky dance party.
Pretty great. Pretty darn great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun to like dance.
It's better than doing work, so.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's nice finally being in grade 8 and getting to do fun stuff instead of work. So
Yeah.
And much like the NFL, the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce dynamic made its way into Halloween.
I'm Travis Kelce because he is Taylor Swift's boyfriend, and I like Taylor Swift, and my friend is Taylor Swift.
And students really got creative this year with different and unique costumes everywhere you looked, including a lot of bananas, Pennywise, Jason, princesses, skeletons, and even a pumpkin that this class adopted.
Take a picture of him! He's King Bard! This is King Bard!
And a group of costumes that many students said were the best in the school were the Teletubbies, which came as a group package. One student dressed as a medieval crusader, but he should have dressed as a TBT reporter as he interviewed his fellow students.
What are you looking forward to the most for Halloween?
Chips and candy.
Chips and candy?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. What about you?
I'm just gonna want some pop and candy.
Okay, and you?
Oh, I'm just gonna look out for like candy, you know?
Look out for the candy, nice. What about you?
I'm looking for the king-size chocolate bars.
The king-size chocolate bars. That's always a good one. And me personally, I'm just happy to get out and walk around and just, see people and see all the different costumes. And that's why I can't wait for tonight.
Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
Mitch, I think we've got to give that kid part of your paycheck. You're shirking your
I think he took my
responsibilities.
job.
I was going to say, he might be taking his job.
On assignment. A lot of great Halloween costumes there. Mitch, nobody knows who or what you are, so please tell us.
Well, even when I went to the school, only one kid knew who I was, but from the One Piece film, it's huge on Netflix right now. I am Luffy. He's pretty much a rubber boy, also a pirate, and he can stretch. And speaking of stretching, I'm now going to stretch out my weather forecast and tell you exactly how cold it was today, because it got pretty chilly. Low of -8, feeling like -10. The high only hitting that 0 mark. We did see some wind from the northwest, which always makes everything feel colder with that north wind making its way down with partly cloudy skies. Now, as we head to the region, there is some systems making their way in that could bring a lot of snow, or just a little bit of flurries as we head over to Kenora and Fort Frances. They saw a little flurries earlier in the day, but partly cloudy skies. Also seeing a lot of northwest wind making its way down, and that's going to head to Atikokan and Upsala. That part of the region could see a little bit of flurries overnight, but not anything that will ruin your trick-or-treating, and that's going to carry over to Red Lake and Pickle Lake at -4 and -6. Just some clouds at the moment with Armstrong at -5. Also seeing clouds throughout the day and a little bit of snow making its way in at -6 in Greenstown. Now farther east, a little bit warmer, closer to that 0 mark, currently -1, but it's going to get colder tonight. Northwest winds also impacting, could see around 30 kilometers and could see some light flurries overnight. But other than that, just a little bit of clouds making their way in the area. Now tonight, it is going to be pretty cold when you head out to trick or treat. -8 with the wind chill feeling like -13. The wind's going to be making its way from the west up to 26 kilometers an hour. But it is going to be mainly clear, so you can see the spooky moon as you head out to get candy. But even though it's -8 and -13 with that wind chill, I don't think it's stopping anyone from grabbing as much candy as they can.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mitch. I'm glad that I'm going home to hand out candy and not have to venture out into the cold this evening. Well, earlier we showed you our interview with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. He's not the only one who's pushing the federal Liberals about the carbon tax today. We'll tell you who else is demanding more exemptions when your news hour continues after the break.
There will absolutely not be any other carve-outs or suspensions of the price on pollution.